Hey, what's up guys, Adam here, bringing you my very first video for 2016. Now, first and foremost, I'd say of course, Happy New Year to you. And so the best way to go ahead and kick off this year will be to go ahead and do a setup tour for 2016. Now, it's kind of changed a bit here and there. Now, I kind of did a room tour quite a few months back actually when I was transitioning from my old room to this room. But a few things have changed here and now from there. So I thought the best way to go ahead and kick off 2016 was to bring you guys a setup tour. So now guys, let's go ahead and get straight to it. Okay, so starting from left to right, as you can see, I still have my trusty Sanyo HD TV, which I've had now for nearly about 5 years. And it's a HD TV, full 1080p. But of course, it's not the newest looking TV out there, but I can't really justify upgrading into anything newer or even a 4K TV because I don't really watch that much TV. So I don't think I'm going to get much use out of buying a new TV, considering the fact I don't really watch much TV anyway. So it's not really going to be worth it. And I'm just going to keep this TV, of course, maybe until it even dies and conks out, because I can't really justify buying a newer one. Now, alongside this TV, I have the Logitech X11 speakers, which were originally on my desk setup. I went ahead and moved those from the desk setup into my TV setup, since I actually got some newer speakers for my desk. So these have actually migrated from here to there. And now below that on my TV table is where I have all of my consoles, including my TV box. I have the PS3, I have the Wii, I have the Xbox One, I have of course my PS1 and my PS2, and a few other consoles and bits and pieces along there. I actually used to have the original Xbox there and the GameCube. I actually moved these into storage in my loft for just pretty much for space and convenience. But just to keep on that note, if you want to actually add me on PSN, it's going to be AdSkin96 for the PS3 if you still find me on there. Or you can go ahead and add me on the Xbox One, and my Xbox Live account name is FlyTechGuys. So those will be linked either in the description down below or on screen if you want to go ahead and add me on those platforms. Okay, so moving along now onto the main portion of my desk, I actually have the office drawers from IKEA. I can't remember the exact name for these office drawers. I'm sure if you go ahead and type in office drawers on IKEA, it'll definitely come up in the listings. And I basically use this to go ahead and store all of my excess cables, like Ethernet cables, HDMI cables, power cables, and all sorts of paraphernalia. Not very interesting, but it's always useful to go ahead and have those cables lying around as and when I need them. And then on top of the actual drawer itself, I have this monitor, which you're probably wondering, why is this monitor sitting at this funny angle on top of these drawers? And I mainly use this monitor. It is the AOC F22 Plus monitor. It's one of my older monitors from my old setup, and actually use this for actually monitoring my DSLR video. Because I don't know if you know that the camera I'm using is the Nikon D3100. It does not have a flip-out LCD screen, so it means that trying to monitor focus and where you are in the video makes it difficult by trying to guess where you are. So it always helps having an external monitor. And I prefer using a large external monitor as opposed to a video field monitor, because number one, it's a lot larger and it allows you to go ahead and monitor the focus a bit better when trying to monitor your focus when doing A-roll. So that's pretty much why I use this monitor on the side here. Just when I'm doing A-roll, I can actually monitor where I am and where I'm positioned within the video. So next I actually have my MXL 990 condenser microphone. I've actually had this microphone now for around about 10 months and it's served me really, really well. I've actually upgraded it from my Audio-Technica ATR 2500, which unfortunately decided to go ahead and die on me. So this is the microphone I've been using for most of my A-roll and some of my B-roll. But then sometimes when I'm doing some A-roll, I actually use the MXL 991, which came with the 990, which I'm going to show you later on within the video. This microphone is fantastic. I'm actually using it now to go ahead and record this voiceover, and it's standing on a ordinary generic stand from Amazon. It hasn't got a particular name. I'm sure if you go ahead and type in microphone stand on Amazon, it'll come straight up again, and you can go ahead and take a look at what this stand has to offer. But I personally find it great. I used to have a boom arm, which I had on my older microphone, but then again I found that a bit too cumbersome on the desk, so I just went ahead and got a microphone stand instead. It's a bit more stable and it makes recording audio a lot better than using on the boom arm, especially in my case anyway. So behind the MXL 990 microphone is where I have my passive speakers. These are the Echo passive speakers, and these actually perform really, really well. Now, they're not studio monitors, of course, because studio monitors are pretty pricey, but these are actually passive speakers, and you tend to find them a lot cheaper. You tend to find them more on the hi-fi side of things, and with DJing, tend to use a lot of the passive speakers. Now, the term passive means that you have to have some sort of amplifier to power these, and although amplifiers can be quite expensive, I actually bought this one. I'm going to go ahead and get round to it in a second, but I bought my amplifier for these speakers for around about £16, and these speakers perform tremendous audio quality, a lot better than any ordinary PC speakers and any 2.1 or 2.1 speaker system can provide. These provide amazing sound quality for the price, and I definitely recommend going ahead and taking a look at these if you're willing to go ahead and side away from your ordinary PC speaker and tend to look at something a bit more high end. So whilst on the topic of audio, now I might as well go ahead and talk about my Behringer Q802 mixer. Now, this mixer produces fantastic results. It pretty much is the control center of all the audio that goes in and out of my PC. I don't use any sound cards or anything like this. All of the audio comes from the mixer itself, and it's also doubles up as being able to provide phantom power for my MXR 990 and the 991, and it also doubles up as a sub amp for the speakers. I'm using the passive speakers. And of course, now moving alongside now to the actual amplifier itself, this is the amplifier that I actually got along with these speakers. It costs around £16, and it's got a really strange name. It's called the Hong Zing. You can buy it in the UK if you live in the UK from a UK seller, but it's a very inexpensive amplifier, and it's enough to go ahead and power these passive speakers on the side here without any issues. Now, of course, some amplifiers can be quite pricey, but this one is a really inexpensive one, coming around about £16, and it provides fantastic control over these passive speakers. And I've been using this now for around about 3 weeks, and it's served me really well. So carrying on with audio now, my headphones of choice are the JVC explosive headphones, and they're explosive for good reason. They produce really rich lows and still maintaining overall good highs and mids. So I've always been a good contender of JVC equipment, especially with their headphones, and decided to go ahead and stick with their headphones. I mean, they're super comfortable to wear over long periods of time, which is going to be fantastic if you're going to be editing over long periods of time. And they're 50mm drivers and gold plated 3.5mm jacks, which means the audio is going to be really crisp. So in terms of my peripherals, my keyboard of choice is the Perictus 200 gaming keyboard that uses the Cherry MX brown switches, although there is a version that does come with the Cherry MX blue, but I've got the brown version. It feels great when typing and great when gaming. And the mouse that I'm using is the Nemesis gaming mouse. It's not the most advanced mouse out there, but it has a relatively high DPI and it's perfect enough for what I need to be doing with it. So moving on now to my favorite part of the setup, the monitors. Now the monitors I'm actually using on the lower section are the ALC Q7577PWQ. Yes, the name is quite long for these monitors, but I just generally call them the 25-inch 2560x1443 panels from ALC. These are IPS panels, and they are definitely part of hashtag Team Crispy. I mean, I can sit within a foot away and not notice any pixels at all. And it makes editing on these monitors a real breeze, especially with the IPS panels. These just make my editing video a real treat. Now I can actually use monitors without any scaling at all, and I will be doing a full review of the actual monitor itself, so definitely stay tuned for the review of the ALC monitor. Now the monitor I'm actually using above that now is pretty much a newer addition. It's not a newer addition to my setup, but it's more of a new addition to this particular setup, because I actually had this as part of my older setup. It's actually the LG 22-inch monitor. Again, it's an IPS display, and I mainly use that monitor as an overflow monitor, or if I'm doing any additional work in After Effects or Adobe Premiere, I use it as a 1080p video monitor, so I can go ahead and see the video that I'm working on in its full resolution. So I find that very useful as well. So as you can probably tell, yes, this is a pyramid style setup, and no, it has nothing to do with Illuminati. It's all to do with productivity and workflow. So don't be fooled by thinking, oh, this is going to be some Illuminati thing. No, it's nothing to do with that whatsoever. It's purely productivity and workflow. And if you're wondering how this actual monitor is actually standing up above these two, it's kind of a ghetto type of thing that I've done. Basically, I've got an old stand or an old set of drawers and stood that up and then put the monitor on top of that. So if you're wondering how the monitor is up there, yes, that's how it's up there. Probably the most ghetto part of this complete setup. And finally, the beast that is completely running this entire rig, which is going to be the workstation / Hackintosh PC. And I've already done a video of this PC separately, so you can go ahead and check that out on my channel. But just to give you a brief rundown of the specs of this PC, of course, the case is going to be the Silent Base 800. The processor is the i7 5820K. It has 32GB of DDR4 RAM, an NVIDIA GTX 980 graphics card from MSI, 120GB SSD, and about 5TB of storage. That is pretty much the fast breakdown or the fast rundown of all of the specs within this PC. Now moving on now to my secondary desk, which looks quite bare in comparison to the desk that I've just shown you. But this desk is pretty much doubles up as my B-roll desk and my study desk for university. Now on this desk, I like to leave it fairly simple. I have my netbook there. That's the netbook I tend to take to and from university, and it's a relatively good netbook. I mean, it has an i5 processor, 8GB of RAM, which is more than enough to do any type of word processing, internet browsing, even some light video editing and programming. So that netbook is perfectly fine for me if I'm taking to and from university. The next that I have my Teotronics lamp, which also adds to a bit more, give me a bit more light when I'm doing any written work, or even on the netbook doing any work from there. I can go ahead and turn that light on. Tetronics is a really good company when it comes to all sorts of office supplies, and their lamp is just one of them. I've actually got a review of this lamp as well, if you can go ahead and check it out on my channel as well. Then at the very end of the desk, as you can see, I've got bits and pieces of paper there, you know, notes for university and notes for videos, all stacked up in that corner there. And that is pretty much that secondary desk. Okay, now, so moving on to my video production gear. And I've kind of hinted about my video production gear over the last few years, and it's kind of changed a bit here and there, but I'm still using the same camera, the Nikon D3100. I'm still using that same camera. It has served me well, and I really enjoy using it. I may upgrade it soon within the future, but apart from that, this camera is doing really well. Of course, in terms of my lenses, I have the kit lens, the 18-55mm kit lens, which I've had now again for as long as the camera. And then before, not too long ago, I actually picked up the Nikon f1.8 50mm lens, the Nifty 50, and this allows me to get those, you know, really bokeh shadow of the field shots when I'm doing a lot of the B-roll. I did try and use this lens for a bit of A-roll as well, but because it's so cropped in, it makes trying to shoot A-roll really difficult, because you have to have the camera set about 8 feet away, which isn't always convenient, especially if you're in a really tight space. So that's pretty much one issue with the 50mm lens. And then more recently, I've actually got my hands on a vintage lens. It's actually a lens from Panagore, and they actually make the 28mm f2.5 lens. This lens is absolutely solid. I mean, when people say, oh god, they don't really build things that they used to, they're actually pretty serious on that, because I mean, this lens is absolutely completely metal. There's no plastic in there. It actually makes my 50mm lens look like a complete toy by comparison. So this lens, this vintage lens from Panagore, is really strong, and I enjoy using it. And again, it's a really crispy lens as well. So in terms of my light, to actually get 3 sources of light. Of course, my hair light is normally actually replicated by the ceiling light, but for my key light, I actually go ahead and use a red head lighting setup, and this light is absolutely ridiculously bright. I mean, this can literally light up the night sky and turn it into daylight. It is that bright. So try not to use that too often, because unless lighting conditions are really poor, I more often use what I tend to sometimes use as my fill light, and it's basically kind of like a softbox light, but it is more of a dome light, mainly used in photography studios. And I tend to use that with a daylight bulb, and that really works out really fine, especially when I'm doing videos in the studio, in my bedroom. It makes lighting a lot better than just using the ceiling light on its own. Even though that is a daylight bulb up there, it's still not bright enough to give enough light when I'm shooting videos. So I tend to use either the redhead setup box there, or I tend to use the dome light with the daylight bulb in it. So in terms of my tripods, I actually have 2 tripods, both of which have a Valbond fluid head on them. I have a heavyweight tripod, which I tend to use more if I'm going to be shooting outside locally, like in the park, or I'm going to be shooting in the garden, which is very few and far between, because I live in England and the weather's not really good to be shooting outside. And I also have a more compact tripod, a lightweight tripod, again with a fluid head on it. I tend to use that more inside if I'm going to be traveling away and I don't want to carry any heavy weight. I tend to use the lightweight fluid head tripod as well when I'm going to be shooting far and wide. And that is pretty much how I get my setup going for my tripod and my lighting. And the final thing, which I should have probably hinted before, is my microphone stand that I use with the MXL991 when I'm doing A-roll. This microphone tend to be used for an instrument or of some sort, but I tend to use it for voiceovers for my A-roll, and that microphone performs really well. And anyway guys, that's pretty much the tour for 2016. Once again, Happy New Year to you, and I'll catch you guys in the next tech video. Bye for now.